Hey man, this is Chris the Phone Cats, and this is just going to be a ranty, revamped video of Krekos Goblin deck and what I'm playing with and what I'm not messing around with at all. The first vid wasn't like this style to where I'm scrolling through all the cards, so maybe this will go a little bit smoother. And I didn't even have all the cards unlocked at that point, and that was pre-expansion. So let's get this poppin'. I really do feel like this is the best deck in the game. It's kind of like playing StarCraft and 4-pooling every game and just knowing that like your opponent isn't going to get up and running. I don't know. I got really high on the leaderboards because for a while I thought that that was the coolest thing in the world to do. And yeah, let's go. Alright, Goblin Arsonist. Really cool art since that's what everyone cares about. Look at him. He has that pyramid on his head. He looks so angry. He's just tied with rope. It's 1 mana for a 1/1, and whenever it dies, you get to deal 1 damage anyway. If you Goblin Grenade him, it's going to deal 6 damage. That's just so cheap. So cheap right out the gate. Goblin Bushwhacker. Please don't play this on turn 1, you noobs. Look at them stuck to the roof. So scary. If you got a whole bunch of tokens out, it's pretty much game over if you play this, because yeah, he gets haste himself. All your other creatures get +1, +0. It's so ridiculous. I mean, there's not much to really else to be said about it. Goblin Grenade, I'm so glad there's not 4 of these. I mean, if there were, I would play with all 4, but whenever I'm playing against goblins, it's just nice knowing that they only have 2. If you somehow miraculously draw both of them, you're gonna win. It's so cheap. Such a cheap deck. We're still covering 1 casting cost cards, and we're going to for a while. 13 cards or 1 casting cost that I'm playing with. This is like the backbone of the deck in a weird way. It's just like the theme of the deck. 1 mana for a 2/2 with haste. So bam, first turn, I'm attacking you for 2, and you flip the top card of your opponent's library. If it's a land and they get it, and don't think that it's just giving them more land, because instead of them drawing that land next turn, they're going to draw a different card. So it puts them 1 step closer to getting their infest, mutilate, their board wipe, whatever thing that they're going to try to use to slow your momentum. But normally the minimal card advantage doesn't outweigh the fact that you're popping them for 2 a turn, and it attacks in the first turn. It's so crazy, and you get to see every card that your opponent draws. No, not every card, but it just gives you a great foresight of what's in your opponent's hand. Like every time that it's not a land and they reveal it, you know what's in their hand and you know what they're going to play. And when you're playing this Goblin deck, and most games are over by turn 5 or 6, I don't know, it's just like a pro advantage. Okay. See how so far there's only 2 of each of these cards. So you can say like, oh, you're not going to draw them, but you are, because they're all twofers. Alright, Goblin Warstrike, another insane card. I love the alt text. Fire, aim, ready. I think there's like a... Normally I hear ready, fire, aim. But fire, aim, ready. That's just a weird mix-up. Okay, 1 mana for a sorcery. Goblin Warstrike deals damage equal to the number of goblins you control to target player. So let's say you got that, and you got a Goblin Grenade, and you got a Goblin Arsonist. So ridiculous, so ridiculous. That's so much damage. I mean, it's realistic for you to have, let's say it's like the turn that you're going to try to kill your opponent. Let's say turn 4, and maybe you have 4 goblins out. That's very reasonable. So you Warstrike them for 4, you Grenade them for 5, and then let's say you grenaded an Arsonist. That's 10 damage without even attacking at all the entire game. This deck is so fast. Raging Goblin, yeah, I'm still playing with these. 1 mana for a 1/1. It's really old school for you, old school Magic kids. Yeah, he raged at the world, at his family, and his life. But mostly, he just raged. That sums up everyone that's playing against goblins. 1 mana for a 1/1 haste. It's really backbony. It's a solid play on turn 1, or playing it like turn 4. If you just top deck it, you're still fine because it does damage immediately, and you probably already have some +1/+1 dudes out by then. Shock. little direct damage. You can whop your opponent for 2, or just take out some potential blockers that would be in the way. I mean, it's hard to argue versus shock. Alright, that's it for the 1 casting cost stuff I'm playing with. Let's talk about the scrubby cards that I'm not playing with. Goblin Balloon Brigade. I don't know. Maybe if you're... No, it's hard for me even to justify this at all. 1 mana for a 1/1, and you can spend one of your precious mana to give it flying until end of turn. I mean, you can try to argue for it and say that, yeah, I'm going to give my dude flying and float this Goblin Balloon Brigade in the air for an extra damage. It's weak. I kind of surprised myself that I'm not playing with this Fire Slinger. 1 mana for a 1/1, and then you can bop your opponent for 1. It only deals damage to target player, so don't think this is some god card to where you can be sniping their creatures the entire game. But, I don't know, 1 mana for a 1/1, if this was an enchantment, they just said your opponent loses 1 life each turn. That's pretty much the same thing, except it's better because after you get like multiplier effects like that Goblin Pile Driver that we're going to get to, or if you have a Goblin King in play, all of a sudden now he's dealing more damage. I don't know, it's a nice card, but I took it out for now. Smelt, get out of here. I'm not playing, like, I guess there might be some weird control build version of Goblins to where instead of getting one of these clutch cards that I'm playing with, you have artifact control. It doesn't deal extra damage. I don't know, it just seems like a dead card. I mean, if they have like a Panoptic Mirror or whatever, Pantopic Mirror, if you let them get to turn 5 and turn 6, then you've already lost. Or at least in this like 4-pooly build that I play. Okay, back to 2s, or to the 2 casting cost cards. Ember Hauler, pretty dope. Look, he's got a little bent board on his back and he's carrying a whole bunch of embers. Sounds dangerous. He's got little claws to pick him up, but I don't know why he has the claws, because he sacrifices himself. You pay 1, sack him, and he deals 2 damage to target creature or player. It's really sweet. Just puts you 1 step closer to getting that early kill. You would definitely want to attack or chump block before doing the sacrifice mechanic, just to squeeze every bit of damage out of him. Okay, Goblin Pile Driver. Blue decks, some people will quit. The art's scary too. Throw enough goblins in any problem and it should go away. At very least, there'll be fewer goblins. That's kind of a weird text. Okay, 2 mana for a 1/2, so you can't kill it for 1, or you can't block with a 1/1 and be fine. Protection from blue, so I believe it can't even be countered spelled, but I could be getting confused about that. Whenever it attacks, it gets +2/+0 for each other attacking goblin. It's so ridiculous. If you're attacking with this and you have a Relentless Assault in your hand, and then you play Relentless Assault, so let's say it's turn 4, you attacked with 3 goblins and this guy. That's very reasonable. This turns into a 7/2, and then if you play Relentless Assault, you untap all your goblins and then you attack again. So that bumps them up to like an 11/2. It's a game over card. That's why I play with the Relentless Assaults right now. But yeah, this is one of the many cards that if your opponent doesn't do something about, they'll die. And normally you're able to use an Ember Hauler to sacrifice something, or do a shock at the right time to take out blockers. It's so sweet. God, look at all these cards. There's 2 of each of them so far, except for that burn spell. So ridiculous. Alright, Goblin War Driver. It's getting beefier in here. 2 mana for a 2/2. Don't worry about the 2 red. That's nothing. Battle Cry. For each other attacking goblin you have... No, every goblin that's attacking gets +1/+0. So this is just another beefy thing that gives all your creatures extra damage dealing. A turn 2 War Driver and then a turn 3 Goblin King is a force to be reckoned with. Let's say you do a turn 1 Goblin Guide. Turn 2 War Driver. Turn 3 Goblin King, which we'll get to later. You're attacking for so much damage for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? On turn 3? This deck is so fast, it's gross. There's only 1 War Driver, so Keep that in mind. Krekos Command, another great deal. Like, this deck is so OP. 2 mana, put 2 1/1 red goblins into play. It's just more swarm mentality. You can chump block with one if you need to, or it can play up into other cards like the Goblin Goon if you're playing with that. 4 mana for a 6/6. It's 2 mana. You put 2 1/1s. If you got a Goblin King or something else that gives your tokens +1/+0, or Battle Cry from the War Driver, it's just such fast damage. Oh, I shouldn't have ate so many tacos right before starting this video. Okay, Goblin Piker is, I don't know, it seems like a telltale sign that someone hasn't unlocked the rest of the cards, or they're just playing with a suboptimal deck. 2 mana for a 2/1. Compared to these other cards that are so beefy, like Pile Driver, Ember Hauler, War Driver, Instigators. My god. If they're playing with Pikers and not any of those other cards, yeah, they either don't have a clue or they don't have their whole deck unlocked. Ring of Valkis. Equip creature gains haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it's red, give it +1/+1. 2 to cast, 1 to equip. I don't know. Everything in this deck either has haste from another card, or I don't know. It just doesn't feel right in this deck. I see some people playing with the Arms Dealer, and it's just some, like, seems like mid-geared creature control. It's 3 mana for a 1/1, and then you can pay 2 and sack any goblin, including Arms Driver, as an option. And Arms Dealer deals 4 damage to target creature. So if you're starting to get to that mid-game and your opponent's playing some deck that has like some angels or just some beefy green creatures, or anything with a toughness of 4, it's nice to sack just like one of your little Krenko tokens or something mediocre to get it out of the way. But yeah, I took it out. 3 mana for a 1/1 isn't working in my super aggro goblin build. I guess some people might be playing more of like a goblin control mid-game, but whatever. Took out these Blister Stick Shaman. It's okay. Cool art. Very mean looking, very scary. 3 mana for a 2/1, and when it comes into play, it pings 1 damage somewhere. So you can take out a chump blocker or just light up your opponent for 1, but yeah, just seems kind of mediocre. Warren Instigators, kill this card or you're so dead, man. You're so dead. It has double strike, so it hits twice. And it's 2 mana for a 1/1. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent, you can take a goblin creature from your hand and put it onto play immediately. It's so OP. It's so OP. Since it has double strike, if it hits your opponent, it hits him twice. So you're dropping 2 goblin fatties. Just another card that if they don't deal with it, it's game. And once again, there's only 2 of them in the deck, but that goes for just about everything. This deck is so sweet. I just don't play it that much because it's almost like easy mode or like mindless mode. Alright, let's keep this going. I'm playing with 2 of the Gem Palm Incinerators. 3 mana for a 2/1. I mean, that's reasonable. It's like a Blister Stick Shaman in that aspect, but it has cycling. So you can pay 2 and discard it and draw a card. And then whenever you cycle it, it deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of goblins on the battlefield. So let's say you already have 3 goblins out, you cycle it, you draw a card, and you deal 3 damage to a creature. Late game, when you got your goblin swarm of tokens going, you can cycle this and then take out some like huge 7/7 flyer creature. It's powerful. I'm playing with 2 out of 3. I thought about messing around with this Goblin Artillery, but I never really got around to it. It seems like for that mid-weird build. 3 mana for a 1/3, and then you can tap it, and Artillery deals 2 damage to target 2 damage to target creature or player, and 3 damage to you. So I don't know, 3 mana for a 1/3. It's almost like they want you to leave it as a blocker, and then at the end of your opponent's turn, either kill one of their creatures and take 3, or bop them for 2 and then take 3. It's fine taking the extra damage, but I don't know, it's just weird. I'm playing with all 3. Oh, I thought they were Goblin Kings. They're Goblin Chieftains, that's fine. 3 mana for a 2/2. Other goblin creatures you control get +1/+1. So it doesn't do it to itself unless You have 2 in play, and then they do the same style as the lieges do. Haste. Other goblins you control get +1/+1 in haste. A turn 3 Goblin Chieftain and a turn 4 Krenko is insane. I guess I'll like spell it out. Turn 3 you play the Goblin Chieftain. Turn 4 you play Krenko. And then, yeah, Krenko has haste. So you play Krenko. You tap Krenko. Let's say you had 4 goblins out. You put 4 tokens into play. The tokens get +1/+1. The tokens have haste. It's so sweet. Playing with all of those. They don't give you 4 chieftains, but they do throw in a war chief, which is kind of similar. Goblins you control cost 1 less to cast. And goblins you control have haste. So it does the same pairing with Krenko in a pinch. And then the 1 less casting cost is okay. I don't know. I mean, play that on turn 3. You can get an epic turn 4. Because there's a lot of goblins that have a colorless and the casting cost. But yeah, we'll keep going and see what else is applicable with that. Let's see, not playing with the Goblin Assault. It seems for the mid-gear deck build. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 red Goblin token creature into play with haste. And Goblin creatures attack each turn if able. That second part seems to be kind of more of a disadvantage than anything else. So even if your opponent has better stuff, Goblin creatures attack each turn if able. It doesn't say tokens. It says Goblin creatures, so that goes for everything, unless I'm mistaken. Okay, Ringleader, pretty sweet. 4 mana for a 2/2 with haste, so it's a turn 4 threat, amongst a couple of other turn 4 hasty threats. And when it comes into play, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Take all the goblins and put them in your hand and put the rest on in the bottom. So if you're starting to lose steam around turn 4, this just kind of seals the deal and gives you that epic turn 5. Hopefully at that point you already have a war chief or a chieftain in play. So everything that you play on turn 5 is going to have haste too, and it'll be a quick win. It's nice. Yeah. Sometimes you'll light up your opponent with an instigator and then put a ringleader into play, and then your turn 4 is going to be crazy. It's just so powerful. So many combos. Krenko Mob Boss, name of the game. 4 mana for a 3/3, and then you tap them, put X 1/1 goblins into play, where X is the number of goblins you control. If your opponent can't deal with this, it ends up being game, and in a fun way, because, I don't know, you just end up getting an absurd amount of goblin tokens into play. Even in a slow game, let's say you play them on turn 4, and then on turn 5 you have like 4 or 5 goblins. You tap them, let's say at the end of your opponent's turn, now you're at 10 goblins. And then you do it again on your turn, tap them, now you're at 20 goblins. Okay, 20 goblins, and then you bust out Goblin War Strike. I mean, that's just such a sweet combo alone. Yeah, I don't need to rant about Krenko. He's like rant worthy enough as is, or people should already know how ridiculous he is. Here's another thing if you're playing the mid-geared deck. Goblin Offensive, 3 mana X. Put X 1/1 Goblin tokens into play. Goblin Offensive. They certainly are. Goblins are offensive. Goblins are offensive, so why are you playing this like late game card? Let's say you play it on turn 5, which, I don't know, seems like a long time to hold on to this card. That it does the exact same thing as a Krenko's Command, which costs 2. So I mean, obviously that's not the most advantageous time to play it. Even if you do it on turn 6, that seems dumb. If you do it on turn 7, then it's like playing 2 Krenko's Command. And that's 7 mana. That's such bad card in this style of deck, in my opinion. I mean, do your own thing. Of course, test everything out. Don't believe anything that I say. I'm not like a magic god by any means. Alright, more stuff that I hate. Goblin Rough Rider, 3 mana for a 3/2. Why is that text italics? Oh, it's because he has no fucking abilities? We're moving. Invoker, I think this one's decent if you're playing that funky late game deck again. I have yet to have someone do this against me. 3 mana for a 2/2, pay 8. So on turn 8, if you make it to turn 8 and you haven't killed your opponent and he hasn't wiped the board yet, you can tap 8 mana and creatures you control get +3/+0. Too bad it takes 8. That's so much. Wow, we're already at the end of my deck. I have such a low casting cost build. I'm playing with 2 Reckless ones, Reckless 2s if you will. 4 mana, star, haste, and his power and toughness equal to the number of goblins on the battlefield. Really cool art. At first I couldn't even tell what it was. I thought it was some like weird, I don't know, demon-y thing, but it's like this warrior looking goblin that looks like he just got out of a gladiator arena with all this crazy gear and red lightning. So hot. So let's say you've been playing a goblin every turn. Or let's say it's a dreamy world and you played a turn 1 goblin, turn 2 Krekos command that put the 2/2/1/1 tokens. And turn 3 you played another goblin. So that's 4 goblins, and then turn 4 you play this. This is a goblin itself, so that makes it a 5/5 with haste. It's just another really fast game card. I mean, they can chump block it because it doesn't have trample or anything ridiculous, but it's just setting you up for the win. Yeah, I'm playing with Relentless Assaults. These are kind of wishy-washy, and I might take out one of these or one of the Reckless ones for some. The Dragon seems like something that might need to be thrown in. But let me tell you about this first. It does pair really well with the Goblin Pile Driver. I mean, all of a sudden you're attacking with like an 11/2 Goblin. So against blue decks, if they don't have a counterspell, they're pretty much dead. It's 4 mana. Let me actually read the card. Untap all your creatures that attacked this turn. And then you, after this main phase, you get an additional combat phase. So you get to attack again. It's just so good. I mean, turn 1 Goblin, turn 2 Goblin, turn 3 Goblin King, or whatever the other one is that gives all your dudes +1/+1. So let's say you've popped him a couple times. I mean, you did that turn 3 Goblin King that gave your dudes haste and all +1/+1. So they definitely took at least 6 damage there, and then 2 on turn 2, so they're probably like a 12. And then turn 4, you attack again. Yeah, you would pop him for like 6, and then Reckless Assault, attack him again. It's nice. It just gives you one of those cheesy wins, and that's kind of what this deck is about for me. Just overwhelming them with Rush, and they have like all these cool cards that they wanted to play. I just get bored with this deck because it's so win. Isn't that weird? Does anyone else get tired of winning and then want something that requires more of a challenge? Siege Commander, I kind of like the cartoony art. It's a little different. Siege Gang Commander, 5 mana for a 2/2. That's a little steep, but when it comes into play, you put 3/1/1 Goblin tokens into play. And then you can tap 2, sacrifice a Goblin. Siege Gang Commander deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So you can light up chump blockers. Look at these poor sacrificial goblins with the spikes on their head. Hey, I've actually looked at the picture properly, and that's a catapult on his back, and there's one sitting in the catapult, and he launches him. That's so sad. But yeah, turn 5 Siege Gang Commander. Turn 6, you got 6 mana. How convenient to sacrifice your 3 tokens. Maybe after attacking too, or attack, and then when they declare blockers, sacrifice everything that gets blocked. So some creatures make it through and deal damage, and then this dude whops them for 6. And that's normally a kill. Okay, here's some higher casting cost and more mid-game mechanics stuff that you can play with if you want more like of a controlled experience in your game. One thing that does kind of turn me off is that right now my deck has 24 lands in it, and I'm not playing with that many high casting cost cards. So some people enjoy playing with a couple of these Rummaging Goblins. You can play with 3 of them. I played with 1 in for a while and still didn't like it. I just go for the cheap kill. If I draw a hand with a whole bunch of land, I'm going to mulligan because I only need like 3 land to win normally. So Rummaging Goblins, 3 mana for a 1/1. You tap it, discard a card, draw a card. And what I pretty much would do with this is just hold extra land in my hand. And then once I caught one of these dudes, yeah, sometimes you'll attack with them if you got enough +1/+1 counters going on. But most of the time I would leave them untapped Use him as a potential chump blocker if I needed to, or just as a blocking threat more. And then at the end of my opponent's turn, tap it. Normally I have to pause it because the lag is weird. But yeah, discard a land, discard a mountain, and draw a card. It's just really efficient. Try it out for yourself. You can play with a Squee Goblin the Bob. He's kind of funny. Yeah, so Squee is funny. I don't know. All I can say is that he's funny. I just remember from old cards. 3 mana for a 1/1 Goblin. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return Squee Goblin the Bob from your graveyard to your hand. So you can recast him every turn. So things with sacrifice mechanics are cool. Siege Gang Commander, you can pop him for 2 a turn, but that costs 5 mana to play him and sack each turn. Or he pairs well with Rummaging Goblin, because it doesn't matter if he left play or not. So if you get that little cute combo, then you're drawing 2 cards a turn as he just returns from your graveyard to your hand. He's really annoying. You can use him as a chump blocker each turn and block your opponent's huge green fatty too. Okay, Thunder Trash Elder, kind of peculiar. 3 mana for a 1/1, and then Devour. If I'm not mistaken, which I very well could be, when it comes into play, you can sacrifice a Goblin, and then for each Goblin you sacrifice, he gets +3/+3. Is that it? I don't know. It might be the one where if creatures have dealt damage, they get +3/+3. Who cares? He sucks. Battle Rattle Shaman, 4 mana for a 2/2. At the beginning of your combat, on your turn, you may have target creature get +2/+0. So play this before your attack phase on turn 4, and then attack, and you get to give something a +2/+0 boost. If you do it on himself, like every time, it's pretty much 4 mana for a 4/2, which seems mediocre to me. And I don't really see what the benefit is of getting to give another creature +2/+0, but yeah, cool art. He's like this kind of meager goblin, and then there's like these huge beefy ones that he just casts a spell on. Click Slither. Some people are feeling this, but I'm not playing with it right now. It can be a turn 4 winner. I mean, let's say you did turn 1 Goblin, turn 2 Krekos Command, turn 3 Goblin, turn 4 attack, or turn 4 Click Slither and attack with everything. They're probably going to end up chump blocking your Click Slither, so all your Goblins go through and deal damage. And if they make the mistake of blocking something else, you have this Click Slither here, and then you sacrifice your 1, 2, 3, 4 Goblins, and Click Slither gets +8/+8. Ooh, and Trample. That really is more advantageous than I thought. Might need to throw that in. It seems a little bit better than a Relentless Assault, but I just love the cheesy wins with Relentless Assault. But I don't know, that's pretty cheesy on its own. Haste and the Trample. Pretty dope. Yeah, I'll mod this on the fly. Aw, shit. We'll see how that goes. Mind Moil. Why are you playing this mid-gear deck? 5 mana for an enchantment. When you cast a spell, put cards in your hand on the bottom of your library in any order, and then draw that many cards. So pretty much every turn you play the best card that you have, and then you just get a whole new set of cards. And then from there you play the best card in your hand, and then you do that again. So every turn after turn 5 is going to be pretty epic for you. Not playing with it. Oh, I'm only playing with 1 Siege Gang Commander? Oh, I gotta tweak this deck up. Jesus. Do it on the fly, we'll do it live. Oh, and I think I'm gonna take out a Reckless one for this Voracious Dragon that I've been reading about. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely playing with this Voracious Dragon. Have been the whole time, it's great. 5 mana for a 4/4 flying, Devour 1. Okay, that confirms the Devour thing. God, there's so many more cards that I'm not playing with. Yeah, Devour 3 gives them +1/+1 counters. 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer, Devour 1, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to the number of goblins sacrificed times 2 to target creature or player. You're definitely going to want to do it to the player. And I don't know, maybe I should only be playing with 1 Siege Gang Commander and then a Voracious Dragon. But yeah, let's say you've been playing a Goblin every turn, which is very reasonable. If not, I don't know. They probably killed one, so we'll just say you've played one every turn. That's fine. So it's turn 5. You got 4 Goblins out. And let's say your opponent's like it, I don't know, 12? 14? That seems reasonable. You got 4 Goblins. You play this dragon. You sack all 4 Goblins after attacking, of course. So now they're at, let's just say 8. How about 8? And then you sacrifice 4 Goblins. So this guy deals 8 damage to your opponent. And you got a 4/4 flyer. I don't know. I'm a little wishy-washy that he's not a Goblin, so he's not going to help with Krenko. And that also goes for... No, we're fine. Let's keep moving. Goblin Fire Fiend. I've lost to this card, but it's like that mid-gear Goblin deck. Someone top-decked it. It was a long game. I hate losing to Goblins late game. It's so embarrassing. 4 mana for a 1/1 with haste. It must be blocked if able. That was it. Yeah, I didn't have enough blockers. Okay. 4 mana, 1/1. You can pump it. It has fire breathing. So you pay 1 red, and it gets +1/+0. And it has to be blocked. So if your opponent's light on blockers and you play this on turn 4, all your other creatures are going to go through. It's not like Taunting Elf to where everything has to block it. It just has to be blocked by at least one thing. But sometimes that's what you need. I messed around playing with this Goblin Goon. It's slow to me. 4 mana for a 6/6. It can't attack unless you have more creatures. It can't block unless you have more creatures. You're probably going to have more creatures. That's not the thing for me. The thing is that it doesn't have trample or haste or any like cool ability. Lowland Oaf is the epitome of mediocrity. 4 mana for a 3/3. Tap him. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 and flying until end of turn. And then you have to sacrifice it at the end of turn. So weird. So weird. Okay. Yeah. You can play with 3 reckless ones altogether. There's the Relentless Souls, which I'm still wishy-washy on. Late game, you made it to turn 6. Congratulations. Rage Reflection. 6 mana, creatures you control have double strike. So they hit twice. So let's say you still haven't killed them by turn 6. You attack. Everything deals double damage on your side. That's so nice. But it's not in my deck. Chancellor of the Forge is so weird to me. I mean... 7 mana for a 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, put X goblins into play, where X is the number of creatures you control. So it doesn't matter if you have a dragon out or some other things that aren't goblins. You just put a whole bunch of goblins with haste into play. And that's on turn 7. If you have them in your first starting hand, then you put a 1/1 red goblin with haste into play at the very beginning. I don't know. It seems like that's for just like this, dare I say, like overly aggro to where you feel like, I don't know, it just feels like it's either geared way too early to where it's a 0 mana for a 1/1 if it's only in your starting hand, or you're just hoping that you make it to turn 7 to play it and then put a whole bunch of 1/1s into play with haste. It's cool that they have haste, but not my thing. Goblin Dynamo, 7 mana for a 4/4. You tap him, he deals 1 damage to target creature or player. That's so terrible. Or you can sacrifice him and cast a fireball. So you pay 1 red, and then, yeah, it's just pretty much like an X spell that takes an extra turn. It's 7 mana for a 4/4, so you play it on turn 7. Then on turn 8, you can light him up for 7, which definitely should be enough to kill him. Okay, I can't stop burping, and that's it for this video. Let me just do a little wrap-up commentary. This deck is so cheap. If you want wins and you want to feel good while playing in this like kind of cheesy way, play this deck. It's a great way to beat other decks. I don't really even know what else to say. It's just so fast-paced. There's a reason why people play Goblins. It's because it wins. I mean, your first turns are so epic. everything that you do early game is potent. Like, every one of the cards in the first 3 turns is just so powerful and hard to deal with. Everything in this deck is a threat. Alright, that's it. I honestly got tired of playing this deck. Alright, that's it. Okay.